All right, lights, camera, action. We're back talking about what else? Core Web Vitals again. So today is going to be kind of a special webinar for us because we've already done, I don't know, 1,000 webinars about Core Web Vitals, but today we're actually going to break down everything that we've talked about, and we're going to give you the chance to ask us anything you want to know about Core Web Vitals. So just while we're waiting for people to trickle in, first and foremost, please like our video and subscribe to our channel. That's going to help you get all of the latest content if we ever decide, like today, to just randomly, go live and talk about Core Web Vitals or any other update. You'll get a notification. So definitely don't miss that. And why don't you let us know in the comments where you're watching from? Shout out to Shanae. Shout out, Shanae. Shout out to you. Oh, and Shanae.
Oh, look at that.
Little dialogue happening in the comments. I love it. And I see some people have already started submitting questions, which is great. I love when you guys are interactive in the chat, so I don't have to. It's not like pulling teeth getting questions out of you. So this is already very, very hyped up crowd here. Anyone else watching from somewhere cool? Of course, West End Gallery. Hi. Watching from Edmonton, Alberta. Nice to have you here, Matthew. Okay, well, it looks like we've got a good amount of people watching already. So again, please like the video, please subscribe to our channel, and let's get started. So first and foremost, just for everybody, sunny London. Hi, Adam Richards, sunny London, UK. I'm actually moving to London in August. Super exciting. Zimbabwe. Wow, we got a very global audience today. Amazing. Okay, so if you're joining just slightly late, I'll just recap it again. I know if you're a regular in these webinar series, you know that we've been screaming at you about Core Web Vitals for about 6 months now. So today we're going to break down everything that we learned. We're going to show you the resources that you can use to test your own website if you weren't one of the brave volunteers that got your site tested a few months ago with us. And then we're also going to take some live questions. If you have any concerns about the upcoming update from Google or anything like that. Hi from Saudi Arabia. Hello. So let's just go ahead and get started. So the first question that someone actually pre-submitted to us, I think is a great place to kick off, Nils. So I'm going to put it on the screen. How does Core Web Vitals work, and what is its importance? Say that 5 times fast. Take it away.
Yep. Pretty broad question. And probably going to cover a lot of what we're going to talk about today, and probably already answer some questions that might come up afterwards. But how does Core Web Vitals work? In its simplest form, browsers, or at least Chrome, Firefox does it in a different way, but browsers capture a bunch of information, metadata about the visitor, the user using the browser, and that user's experience. Bunch of metrics around how is the page loading for this user, how does the user perceive the page? Like, is it easy to navigate that website or that web page? Is it fast enough? Is it friendly? Like, if suddenly things start jumping and popping around, like towards an end user, that's not a very good experience. So there's a bunch of metrics that Google, or Chrome at least, the Chrome browser tracks, called Web Vitals. And in total, there's 7 Web Vitals. There are, and I'm pulling them up here. Maybe you can bring my screen up. So again, and especially people who have been watching our previous webinars, probably going to say I sound like a broken record, but web.dev, excellent website with lots of resources, not only about Web Vitals, but about building good websites in general, having good user experiences on your website, even from an accessibility point of view, performance point of view, and so on and so forth. So I always refer to this resource to find any good data about how to make your website perform and how to make the experience for your end user as good as possible. But anyway, today we're into web vitals. So there's a specific section about web vitals, which I'll tap into over here. And as you can see over here, web vital metrics, those are the ones, the core web vitals. Out of the 7 I just mentioned, there's three web vitals that are deemed to be the core ones. So the most important ones, the ones to focus on when you try to optimize your website. And also, yeah, metrics means you're capturing data around how users are perceiving a website. So these three are the most important ones to give you a sort of a scientific sense about how well your website and the experience for your end user, how good or how bad it is. So there's largest contentful paint. I won't go into too much detail again in these metrics, because I think in the previous webinars we went into those in lengthy sessions. So definitely go to our YouTube channel and check those back. But yeah, as a quick recap, largest contentful paint is the time it takes, the biggest element on your website in above the fold, as they say, like in the first screen that a user will see, the biggest element on there, and how long it took that element to load. Usually that's the biggest element is what catches the eye of a user, and if it takes a long time to load, that's not a good user experience. So that's what LCP, largest contentful paint, will measure. Like generally a big image, a video, stuff like that, like big things that also take some time to load. Like those are the ones that, like, there can only be one largest contentful item, of course. Can only be one the largest, but it's that item that and how much time it takes to load. And later on in this webinar, we'll show you how you can measure those things. So that's one. First input delay is more about usability, I would say. So when a user starts clicking on your website, clicking things around, how long does it take until actually your website is ready to receive clicks? Usually when a browser loads a page, a lot of stuff is going on. The JavaScript files need to be loaded, CSS files need to be loaded, images need to be loaded. So there is a point in time, and luckily for an end user, it's measured in milliseconds. So hopefully a user won't perceive it, or it won't be that obvious towards an end user. But so the period it takes for the browser to be ready loading those certain things and to be ready to accept clicks, like if you click on a tab or a link or whatever, and getting the chance, or giving the user, the website, giving the website the chance to act on that click, that's the first input delay. Quite complex one to understand. We have a bunch of resources ourselves, which I think you will present in a second, Courtney, but also on web.dev, there's a full lengthy article that will explain. It does get quite technical. There's no way around that. Like, it is a technical measure. It relates a lot to how you load JavaScript files and improve JavaScript files and CSS and stuff like that. And then lastly, the third core web vital is cumulative layout shift. This is about how your website, the stability of your website. So if you have a website, a user comes on and suddenly a big ad pops up, or a big banner to subscribe to your newsletter, and everything shifts down, like the entire page is very unstable, not a good user experience. CLS is a metric that will measure that and tell you the higher that metric is, the worse experience you're giving your users. So there we go. That's a quick recap of the three core web vitals that you should worry about when it comes to page experience for your end user.
Right, exactly. We actually are getting some questions rolling in. I do want to save some of the more strategic questions, like the one just asked by West End Gallery, until the end, but don't worry, we will get to it. In the meantime, I think that we really covered Amelina's question. So why is it important? What does it cover? I mean, at the end of the day, it's really about your users having a good experience. It's not just about playing by Google's rules. It's about your users having the best possible experience. With that said, we have actually incorporated a lot of these checks and measures into the WooRank tool. And I think that, Nils, do you have the review pulled up so that we can show everyone the new metrics that we have, the new cool criteria that you can check with? Awesome.
Yep. So in our reviews, be it in a project or just a standalone review, doesn't really matter. We have a bunch of criteria added in the past couple of weeks that will help you, improve your core web. Actually, improve a bunch of stuff to your website, and by extension, that will improve your core web vital metrics out of the box. So again, we keep repeating this every webinar. Don't do it specifically for Google. Do it for your end user. That's also how we bring our criteria to life. Like, how can you make your website better so that it benefits your user, and by extension, core web vitals will be better. Google will pick that up, etc., etc. So with that preface, I'll go into a review of my own. Maybe I'll pick a English one just to serve our audience a little better. So for apple.com, there's a bunch under the performance section that we added. So in the past, we already, for years now, did a lot around assets, asset improving, so minifying JavaScript files, compressing those files, caching them because they don't update that often, so better to cache them. So those three things are still super important. They will have an impact on a lot of web vitals, core web vitals, just in general, giving your users a good load experience, I would say, mostly related to load time in this case. So very important. If you want to start somewhere, make sure these criteria are green. But then we added a bunch more that go a lot more into detail on very specific things. The first one being image optimization. And it's already a check in which we check 5 different things, a criterion in which we check 5 different things. We're going to look at how well your images are encoded. Are you using next-gen formatting, JPEG, GIF, PNG? Those are getting dated. There's more and better formatting types these days. WebP is one, for instance. It's fairly newish, but I mean, there's a reason. Things are evolving and things are getting better. So definitely have a look at those using those next-gen formats. Yeah, I'm not surprised Apple is checking green there, because they're really at the forefront of those formatting types. So definitely want to check out if you use a CMS of sorts. Generally, there will be plugins who help you, or who basically out of the box bring a pipeline that will improve your images without you having to do too much of that stuff. Or if you use a Webflow, for instance, they do it literally out of the box. You upload an image and everything happens for you. But always, make sure that these things check off. Are they properly sized? I think speaks for itself. Are all off-screen images deferred? So meaning images that sit at the bottom of your page, or at the point where a user won't necessarily quickly see them, like they have to scroll through the page first to see that image appear. A good improvement there is to defer the image from loading. So meaning that only if a user scrolls past that image, it will start loading. So it saves on bandwidth and so on and so forth. Again, user experience improved. Because you'll have a quicker initial page load time, and at the same time, if a user never scrolls to those images, they don't have to be loaded. Especially on mobile phones, for instance, you'll save some bandwidth there. So it's a good thing to do. And then defining explicit dimensions. So in this case, for this website or web page, there's a red check mark. So that means there will be some images that don't have that explicit width and height setting to them. So yeah, you can dive into a little detail of what images we're talking about. So we show you what images they are, so you can dive in and see. Okay, I'll need to explicitly define those widths and heights on these images. So that's image optimization, very big one, very important one. And then the second one is layout shift elements, which I guess in this case is not a good example, because there's nothing wrong on this website. I'll check another one later. But should you have a website where big banners start popping up, or images that load very slowly, load into your web page, suddenly push everything down, you'll get a list of them over there, because they'll attribute to your CLS score, which is about layout shifts, meaning that things are like your page is unstable, and it will then show how those have an impact on that score. Is it high impact or not? And then you can improve those elements. And then LCP elements, not necessarily a good or bad in this case. Like it's just a gray criterion we show here, so we don't necessarily score it. But if you see you're having issues later down the line in other tools, that will show also, seeing that your latest contentful paint score is dropping, or there's something happening with that score, have a check at this criterion, because it will show you this is the element that attributes to that score, and maybe there's something wrong. It might be an image that is very slow, very big, not well optimized. But if that's your largest contentful paint, that's what the users will have to, or the browser at least, will have to wait for, and will give a bad user experience. So, for instance, I had it myself on a website that many people are managing and adding content to, and everybody is just adding whatever they want on that website. And someone put a huge banner, badly optimized at the first, like in the first thing a user sees. That became the largest contentful paint, very poorly optimized, and the LCP score shot up that day for that website. So my immediate reaction was to check in WooRank. I said, okay, it's a banner. The quickest thing I could do was just drop that image lower on the page, because it wasn't that important anyway. Of course, people think their news is the most important, but anyway, I dropped it on the page so it was not in the default, so people wouldn't see it straight out of the box. And of course, that meant that the largest contentful paint element became a new one, just a block of text in this case, which loads very fast, and that issue was solved. So it was a quick fix, and then I went on to tell the person who added that banner, like, optimize it first, look at the image optimization criterion, make sure everything checks green, and then we can see if we move it higher again. So yeah, that's the third new criterion, that we added in our reviews.
Awesome. So yeah, if you don't have a WooRank account just yet, we make it really easy for you to make a WooRank account. We have a free trial for 14 days. So if you want to just quickly get an idea of where you're standing with Core Web Vitals, then sign up, and you'll get an email from yours truly. If you're having any trouble, you can schedule a demo with me. Other than that, so aside from the criteria, we actually have a brand new feature that we also wanted to show you. If you've been watching our webinar series, you've already seen this tease, but now it's actually ready for consumption. So Nils, why don't you go ahead and show people the new feature of the WooRank Assistant?
Yep. So quick recap of Assistant, what it all is. So in every project, in the last couple of months, you should have seen this new item over here, the Assistant, which then, depending on if you have installed it or not, will explain you how to install. By going to your settings, copy-paste, or copying a piece of JavaScript, pasting that in the head of your website, which then will enable the assistant on your website, meaning that if I, as a website owner, website maintainer, go to my website, which I'll do, this is the website, already opened it. Not a big surprise anymore. But anyway, you'll get this nice toolbar at the bottom, a WooRank toolbar you can open and close. And that brings a bunch of WooRank goodness, WooRank features to your website. So you don't have to go to WooRank.com anymore. I can just browse my own website and see what WooRank is telling me about every single page I'm on. So the entire review for that page is on there. Can filter down on errors or things to improve. And if you have Google Analytics synced, for instance, you'll also get some data for that specific page views, bounce rate, etc., etc. Like you don't have to go to Google Analytics anymore, not to WooRank.com. You just stay on your website, get your analytics data straight on the page that you're working on or want to check on. But of course, today it's all about core web vitals and web vitals. And for people who are in a beta, and I think you'll explain in a second, Courtney, how to get into that beta, because we're still opening up to more users to test this out and actually break it, so we can improve it. There will be a new button that shows up web vitals with a nice beta flag, and this essentially will make it so that you can extract, or that basically the WooRank assistant can extract core web vital data from every visitor on your website. So this is quite unique because a lot of the data that you'll find in Google PageSpeed Insights, for instance, or in Google's UX report, stuff like that, generally only covers the bigger websites, websites with thousands, if not tens of thousands of visitors per day, which is not every website. With our assistant, even if you have one visitor a day, we'll already capture some data around their page experience, their core web vitals, and surface that in the assistant. So for this particular page on my website, these are my core web vitals in the last 30 days, actually a little less because I installed it only a couple, like 2 weeks ago, I think. So it won't be the full 30 days yet. But I can see that there's some work to do on my largest contentful paint. First input delay and cumulative layout shift are good to go. All that information is based off 1,300-ish visitors, of which almost 700 were on desktop, almost 600 were on mobile. And then I can dive in to my largest contentful paint, or my 3 core web vitals, basically seeing, okay, overall, how am I doing? Seeing where it's good. So for LCP, it needs to be below 2.5 to be green. Where it needs improvement or where it's actually bad. So that's kind of a summary view. But of course, if today I make an improvement or I make a change, I want to see as quick as possible, day over day, if that had any impact on my visitors. So that's why there's this timeline graph in which we'll track the 75th percentile. So this is kind of a magic number that actually Google usually refers to. So their line of thought, and that's basically what we follow along with, is that if you bring a good user experience to 75% of your visitors, that's a good goal to aim for. Obviously, ideally for 100%, but you'll always have slow connections. Like you can't control it all. Like you can build a fast website, but you don't have control over a user's internet connection, phone they use, or whatever. So in general, trying to build a fast performing website for 75% of your users is a good aim to work on, like a reasonable aim to work for. Same applies to first input delay and to cumulative layout shift. Like we track everything for every visitor and then summarize that in this nice little view that you can use to monitor your website. So it constantly keeps pouring data or getting data in. So if you make a change today, maybe a couple days later, something goes wrong. yeah, this is what we monitor versus using a PageSpeed Insights tool, for instance, or even a WooRank review. It's kind of a snapshot in time. If tomorrow something changes, you'll need to rerun it. Yeah, maybe something changed, maybe something didn't when it comes to these metrics. But here you literally get the field data, something we also talked about a lot, lab data versus field data. This is actually the field data. So coming from the field, from your actual visitors, your actual users, how they're perceiving your website and how their experience is. So yeah, very fresh new tool, but yeah, accepting beta users into this to install that on your website and get the data out.
Definitely. So if you're interested in checking your own Core Web Vitals, which I would assume that you are since you're watching this webinar, you need to take a couple of steps first. So first step, if you want to check it exactly the way that Nils and I just checked with the WooRank tool, with the WooRank Assistant. So you need to first sign up for a WooRank account. I know I just hammer that home all the time, but you have to sign up for a WooRank account first. Then after that, you need to start a project. So within the WooRank account, we have our reviews, which are kind of just instant looks at a website's health. And then we have projects, which is where you'll do your long-term SEO, like this assistant monitoring, like keyword tracking, like technical site crawls. So start your project. And then after you start your project, you're going to click this link that I am sharing in the chat right now. So this is going to activate that kind of man behind the curtain secret code so you can get beta access to the assistant. So it's going to look very similar once you click this link. That doesn't mean you did it wrong. It just means that now we know in the background that you've had this beta activation activated. That's not really the right way to say that, but we'll go with it. So then you're going to navigate over to your project settings within your, see, Nils pulled it up, within your project, and then go over to the Assistant Beta tab. You can click that, and then you'll get just the same way that you installed the assistant before. You will get your unique code snippet, which you can then put either in your Google Tag Manager, or you can follow our installation guide. We have a link for that if you're a little new to the kind of technical stuff. It's really not as difficult as it might look during this webinar right now. If you've installed, Google Analytics, it's basically the same amount of work that you need to do. And that's that. And of course, if you have questions, or if you're not sure if you activated the beta link correctly, then it's not a problem.
Again, yeah, because I didn't. I just did it with the link again, because I'm in some sort of an incognito window. But just as a double check, if you see this line in your script that you need to copy and then paste into the head, collect web vitals is true. If you see that line, you're in. I mean, you have the beta script, and it will work.
Yeah, and it's super easy to install. Well, I guess maybe not super easy, but it is easy to install. Really, just very, very basic implementation. And we're always here if you need help. You can just email support@woorank.com. We can direct you to we have different installation guides. I think right now we have it for Squarespace, we have it for WordPress, kind of the more prolific CMSs. We have installation guides. We have our WooRank Assistant Beta tab right there. And then, we have frequently asked questions. And we have a way always you can email support@woorank.com if you just need a little bit more of a hand-holding for that. So
works in Google Tag Manager, probably the easiest way, I would say, to install. So
yeah, exactly.
And otherwise, indeed, drop us a line and we'll get you set up.
I know that there are people who are watching right now who have actually already installed it. So Matthew, I'm looking at you. Just let everyone else know in the chat how easy that actually was for you, because I'm not sure if I know when I look at code, I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot handle this, but it actually is very easy for you to install. Taking me to our next question. So Jerome, one of our users here, Jerome actually asked, can you just check my website to see if it's ready for Core Web Vitals? And his website was israelikingwatertaxi.com. So why don't we take a look and show Jerome how he would check for his Core Web Vitals?
Yep. So first of all, not that we're scripting our demos or our Q&As, but right before we started, I did check the website. The funny thing is that it blocks a lot of bots I saw, so I cannot run a review, unfortunately, for this website. So that's out of the water. Water toxie, see what I did there. But anyway, there's some other tools around that you can put to use to check your core web vital readiness and just in general best practices, accessibility, that sort of stuff. So going back to my web.dev website that I love so much, besides learning about a bunch of stuff, there's also a way of measuring a bunch of stuff. So clicking that tab, just put in your URL or web page, run the audit. Essentially for the, let's say, more tech savvy or web development savvy users, this is very similar to what you otherwise would get in a Lighthouse review from your Chrome web browser. But yeah, if that's too techy, looking too much like a hacker man, then this is kind of the exact same experience. Of course, this will run from a Google server, so the timings will all be from that server to said website, whereas in Lighthouse it's from your machine to the website. But anyway, like again, that's lab data. You start from a baseline. This is the baseline. You start improving the website, and then you check it again and compare the new numbers with your changes to the baseline you had before in the same environment, and that's how you generally treat lab data. So for our Israeli watertaxi.com, at first sight, quite a lot of work to do on the performance side of things. The others are a lot better. Still some room for improvement, of course. But yeah, then you can dive in. Okay, so I click on the performance tab over here. Obviously, first need to reference this. So here are our web vitals, and then the core web vitals are the one with the blue ribbon. Again, why do I only see two? Because and why don't I see first input delay? First input delay is a metric that tracks user behavior, clicks. Yeah, a server or a lab result is not an actual user, is not clicking around, so there's no data for that metric because nobody's clicking. So that's why you don't see that metric showing up in the lab data. But there is like a proxy to that core web vital, and that's a total blocking time, TBT. It's another metric that will sort of influence how then further down the line, if a user visits your website and starts clicking, will have his first input delay, his or her first input delay metric, see influence. So if you want to do some, or you have a bad FID score coming in our WooRank Assistant, for instance, you see that popping up, and you want to use lab data to improve that, have a look at the total blocking time and try to improve that. So anyway, those are the core web vitals, and then I can go look at performance. This will give me a bunch of information similar to how a WooRank review would do. We tend to make it a little more understandable for less technical people, or people who are not necessarily a developer. But this tool goes really deep into the technicalities of everything. And just as much, you can look into accessibility. You'll find a lot of the same things in a WooRank review, some best practices, some SEO stuff. That's also something, obviously, WooRank does. So this is one tool. Another one, and there's a big overlap between these two tools, but that's PageSpeed Insights. PageSpeed Insights does also include field data, but field data that's gathered by Google themselves in their Chrome user experience report, which I already touched on. Generally only contains data for bigger-ish websites. This one, not being one, won't show data over here, and that's also what they say, like, we don't have data for this website. A little bit unfortunate, but my message to those websites or website owners: install the WooRank Assistant. If you just have one visitor, we would already know their core web vitals and their experience, so we track it no matter how many visitors you have. So yeah, PageSpeed Insights, again, you'll see a lot of similarities with the web or the tool on web.dev. So that's another one. One nice thing they added, and this is fairly recent, I think in the last week or 2 weeks, I saw this popping up, and I used the tool quite a lot, is that you can also filter their advices on what to improve based on the specific core web vital. So just show me like all the things that are bad or that I can improve, or the ones that solely apply to CLS, to TBT, total blocking time, what I just hinted at, largest contentful paint. First contentful paint, not a core web vital, but also largely tied to largest contentful paint. So yeah, that's a nice little addition in the last couple of weeks that I saw that you have here. You won't have that in the web.dev version of this. In the backend, they all use Lighthouse. So in the end, it's all the data is all coming from one and the same tool. Even for WooRank, yeah, it's not a big secret. We also use Lighthouse in the background. So we all fish in the same pond, let's say, but the way we present the data is more geared towards our own audience. So for WooRank, that's a more general audience, not necessarily technical people. These tools are a little more technical. So anyway, WooRank reviews, WooRank Assistant, definitely, regardless of how big or small your website is, will constantly monitor what's going on your website. And then web.dev, the measure tab, or the PageSpeed Insights. So that's 4 nice tools among many others. Like that's not the only ones, of course, but among many others that you can put to use to improve your website and your core web vitals.
Great. So so for my section now, a little bit, I'm going to just share something for you. I'm going to add this to the screen. So if you just visit WooRank, I'm actually going to share the link in the chat. So this is kind of what we call our Core Web Vitals hub. This is where all of the content, and there's a lot, all of the content that we've created surrounding with Core Web Vitals and really taking a deep dive into the different metrics that we're looking at, a recap of all of our past webinars. This all lives here in the link that I just shared. So if you're really motivated to get your Core Web Vitals fixed and you feel like, you've watched Nils explain it a bunch of times, you've listened to our webinars, you've read our articles, if you're really ready to get started, everything that you really need to know, at least educationally, is here in this hub. So if I scroll down, you can see, all right, where do I begin? We have a recap of how we even got here. So an evolution of all of the different major algorithm updates in the past that have eventually culminated in this Core Web Vitals update. Like, okay, at the end of the day, it's all about page experience. So you can read about the history to kind of contextualize it for yourself. We have largest contentful paint article, I can never say that as well as you can, cumulative layout shift article, and our most recently published first input delay article. We have our webinar series, so you can always just get a recap of, are you ready? Is your website ready? Is your website doomed? Is your website accessible? And then you can obviously subscribe to our YouTube channel, please. And that's the hub. That's the hub of all of the content that we have. Also, conveniently, you can just log in, start your free trial up here. So if you don't yet have a WooRank account, you can sign up very, very easily, even right here from the hub. Now, that brings us to the Q&A portion of our webinar. So we're going to kick it off with one of our pre-submitted questions from Adrian. So Adrian had a really great question that I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, because this is pretty technical. It's a little bit more technical than we usually talk about. How do I translate this update into insights, actionable insights for marketing and sales?
Yeah, also a very good question. Pretty broad one, and there's no clear-cut answer. But I think the example I hinted on earlier, where I work on a website together with a bunch of other people. It's all in our spare time, so not good processes, stuff like that. But I think it shows really well, like you in a company or in an organization, you're working, and there's different roles. Like you have more technical people, you have people who are more on the marketing side, not necessarily in the code, but working on the website, the content, the images, stuff like that. Is looking at, okay, so someone puts a big banner poorly optimized at the top of the page. Like, how do you translate something very technical? In this case, it was mostly the largest contentful paint article, criterion that was or metric that was impacted. Yeah, that's a lesson learned. Like, how can we make marketing, sales, even just working together with tech people and working together and trying to understand what everything means. So maybe a developer could have said, okay, I see there's something with this big banner not good, like, let me help you out improving it. Or, hey, marketing team, does it really need to be at the top of the page? Because that's the first thing that needs to load. That's the first thing that needs to become stable for an end user to get a good experience. Can we put that lower on the page? Maybe that's kind of a bit of a discussion, a compromise to make. Like, can we discuss this together? Like, let's work together. And that's the barrier that for many years now is one that shouldn't be there. Like you have the guys on the technical side and the guys on the marketing side, and there's a wall between them. No, let's break down that wall. Like, there's a discussion to be had. A developer might see, okay, there's this too big banner. Let's discuss how can we improve that. Make it smaller, improve it more, or move it a little lower and defer it. Like I earlier also said, like, maybe that image doesn't necessarily have to load. Maybe it's only a portion of our users that will need to know about it because it's lower on the page, stuff like that. So it's not a clear-cut answer because every website is different, every use case is different, the numbers are different, everybody uses different CMS. So yeah, I can't give a clear-cut answer, but I would always say, like, if there's something like a metric that's hard to understand, work together with someone who understands it and let them help you or discuss together. Okay, what can we do about this? Do we remove it? Do we move it? Do we improve it? That's sort of my kind of overarching answer to this very broad question.
Yeah, of course.
Break down the wall.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And like we've been really singing about for a long time, is that this ultimately is about page experience, like user experience. So really at the end of the day, like, if your users are not having a good time on your site, why would they interact with you further? Why would they convert? Why would they buy anything if they're not having a good time? If they just wanted to click a link and then all of a sudden, because of cumulative layout shift, they're adding something to their cart, they're going to get frustrated and not want to do business with you. So, it's all really a holistic approach to SEO. We have another live question from West End Gallery. So we direct, this is too long. Nils, move your head up. Directly compete with some other galleries competing for keywords. If our SEO strategies were identical, but my core web vitals are solid and theirs aren't, how will Google treat my website over theirs? Well, that is the ultimate question, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. Nobody knows what's in the black box of Google. Well, probably a few people know, but in general, us SEOs don't. Yeah, if you put it almost scientific like this, if everything is the same and the core web vitals are different, I would assume indeed the website with the core web vitals would somehow come out as the best. Now, of course, we also all know that somebody searching something on Google, there's so many different parameters: location, time of day, preferences of that user, searches they've done in the past day, week, month, years, till the beginning of time. They all contribute to how high a result, like how high a website comes in the search results of a Google search. There's what's the article again? Jason Barnard wrote a good article and a good presentation about it on Darwinism in Google search results. So that goes really deep into this topic, like how does, like, there's a matrix of different things deciding how high a website comes in a given search result. So core web vitals will become one of those hundreds, if not thousands, of parameters deciding, making the decision. I assume it will get somewhat of a weight. Like not every item in that list will have the same weight deciding on that position again. So yeah, all in all, I think you kind of already answer the question by asking it. Like core web vitals, obviously, and especially if they're good, will impact positively on how you score, but it's definitely not the only thing that will contribute to a higher position. And also, that being said, as far as we know, there was a core update a couple days ago, June 2nd, I think. And they weren't specific what it was all about, but I think I remember there was a mention of not all the things we wanted to include in this update has been included and will be postponed. So and that's very personal, read between the lines, like core web vitals will probably be the release date will be extended again, because it was already moved from May to June. So again, are they already taking it into account? Yes or no? They're not very open on that front. I don't think so yet. I have the feeling maybe they do. Who knows? But definitely, in the next couple of weeks and over the summer, they'll roll out the core web vital and the page experience. Because actually, I have to say page experience. It's not just purely about core web vitals. Maybe if you can quickly pull up my screen, Courtney. There's actually a good article on the Google Search Central. Keep shooting resources at our viewers, but the Google Search Central resource has a advanced SEO tab, and within that tab there's understanding page experience, and here they kind of spin out what page experience means. There's core web vitals at the very top, so the 3 ones, but then mobile friendliness already, like that was the big hype a couple of years ago, still super important, obviously. Safe browsing, so not having shady things on your website, super important. That's been there for many years. HTTPS over HTTP, also something we've been pushing for a bunch of years now. And then no intrusive interstitials, like things popping up on your website, stuff like that. That's also something users don't like. Users get a bad experience. Google not happy. Broken record. But anyway, another good resource to get your information, and page experience as a whole. So core web vitals being a subsection of that, super important, and will have an impact, or will give your website an impact on Google search results.
If you could share that link in the chat, Nils, or if you want to just send it to me in the chat, I can put it in.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, we do say it a lot. We're like broken records, but the good thing about having us as a resource is that you don't have to really keep your ear to the ground and see if this is going to become a ranking factor. Like, we look into that stuff for you. We're always going to be here. We're always going to be doing these webinars, and we're going to let you know like what the fallout is. I think Nils is right that we're probably not going to see this as like a massive ranking impact overnight. I think that Google is taking their time with it, and that also should tell you that this is majorly important for you to take care of, because they're not just sloppily releasing it. They've already pushed it back 2 times. So it's definitely something to pay attention to. But yeah, we're always going to be doing the research. We're going to be reading the articles, looking at the results, doing the research for you, so that we can then tell you what we think is happening. So I know that a lot of you run your own businesses and you don't have all the time in the world to like, oh, what's happening to the core web vitals today? Don't worry, we've got you covered. So one last question I think we have time for, Freddie from UT. What about sites with low traffic? On my Google console, it says not enough traffic for core vitals. Are small sites doomed? Will we fall in the rankings? What can be done? We did already touch a little bit about this, but go ahead, Nils.
Yeah, indeed. So first thing to say there, I already said it, but Google Search Console indeed pulls its data from the Chrome User Experience Report. It's a lot of words. The crux data that generally has a couple million websites, so mostly the bigger ones. Install the WooRank Assistant, become part of the beta, regardless of the amount of visitors. We'll scratch some data out. So that's one thing to note. The other or second part of the question, I guess, is a website with a low amount of traffic also sort of doomed? Like, is kind of a circle? Like, I have not a lot of traffic, so Google won't bring me up, so I won't get any traffic. I don't think so. I think there's there is enough precedent of websites starting out small and growing over time. There's obviously a lot to it. Also depends on what type of website, what type of industry, what type of purpose the website serves. But you don't have to worry about being a website with a low amount of traffic, and it can even be sort of a strategy, or might make business sense to your website to not have a lot of. If you are some like you provide some sort of a service, you personally as a consultant, you can only serve that many clients a day or a week or a month or a year. Do you need 1 million visitors every month to your website as a lead requesting your services? No, because your bandwidth is pretty low. So again, traffic shouldn't be probably not your main focus. If you're a news website relying on ads, probably then yes, that is your focus. But don't fret too much on traffic alone. Like it has an importance, of course, because somewhere that traffic is finding you. So Google obviously loves websites that get found by other users. That's typically by having backlinks on other websites, or on social media, people talking about you, talking about your website, referring to your website. So those are things to take into account, obviously. Making sure your on-page SEO is on par. Your core web vitals automatically will be positively impacted by that. So users will have a good experience. Google will pick that up, because it's not only Google Analytics. Like they have Chrome. They know what people are clicking on in Google search results, and how they're getting into your website. So they know. Like that's just a given. Google knows. But anyway, so long story short, traffic is more of something that comes out of having a good website, and good, I mean, based on content as well as the on-page things, not necessarily something that will harm or improve your website's ranking in Google.
Great. Well, it looks like there are no real other core web vitals related questions. So I think we can call it a day from here, unless there's anybody else that has a last minute question about core web vitals. If not, if you want to get access to the beta, again, sign up for WooRank. Even if you lose this link that we shared, there's a lot of pop-ups within your account asking you if you want to be a beta tester. So step one, sign up for WooRank. If you haven't logged into your own WooRank account in a while, just log in. You'll see all the information about how to sign up to be a beta tester. We will be back, as always, at the end of the month. I think we're still debating maybe June 29th, probably, but just sign up for our mailing list. Lots of you who are already here probably are already part of our mailing list, which is why you're here. And if you're not a part of our mailing list, just subscribe to our channel and you'll get a notification when we are about to go live. So that's it for me.
And like the video.
Yeah, like our video. Come on. Help me make my bosses happy. Like our video. But really, thank you again for everyone for interacting with us, for watching. We're super excited to help you get ready for this. And that's our spiel for the day, I think, right?
Yep.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And let us know if you have any questions about anything we covered. Just email support@woorank.com or just drop it in the comments. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.